And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. In this video, you will learn what you have to control if you're gonna go from being a boy to becoming a man. And that is your emotions. You have to learn how to control your emotions. Step one is how we all start out as boys. And that is being feminine. From 0 to 8 years old, that's how we all start out. We're small mommy's boys. And we basically go through that time learning about our bodies, learning about how it is to live in a world with other people. And we're massively learning. There's like an exponential growth curve that's like almost reverse because we're just massively learning very, very quickly. During this time, you are not able to control your emotions. I mean, try to make a child stop crying and telling him, stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. Like, he doesn't really know how to do that because he hasn't learned yet how to direct his thoughts to something else by choice. Because since kids are very emotional, I mean, they've just got their bodies, for goodness sakes, and they're focused on the pain or someone shouting at them or something like that. They'll be very focused in the now on that specific event. The only way to get out of that focus is to distract your mind to a different direction and to think about something else. That's why when I try to help my daughter to stop crying, I just get her to think about something else, or I make a face, or I do something. Does that make sense? But it takes her mind off of the specific event that actually was hurtful and that made him or her cry. I'm talking about my boys and my daughter. So that's how it is in the beginning, and we all start out that way. But then there comes a time, now we're 8 years old, we're moving towards 12 years old when it's discipline time. You've got the transition years between 8 and 12 where the boy is learning a little bit more about what it is to be a man. But when he's 12, boom, that's when the discipline needs to start. I'm not talking about disciplining from a parent's point of view. I'm talking about self-discipline. This is the time when the parents need to find out what he wants, right? And direct his focus on the things that interest him. Very often, the things that interest a 12-year-old boy, very often, I'm not saying all the time, the things that he's interested in is good for him. Some of the things are bad for him, right? Obviously, but some things are actually very good for him. And his parents need to encourage those activities, like sports, like martial arts, fighting, like stuff like that when when you're doing with friends and stuff like that. Does that make sense? You enter into the self-discipline phase. Now, what's interesting in that today's world, kids are being forced to grow up too fast and to take responsibility too fast, and they're being told, you gotta be responsible, just like we're telling women in today's world. What happens is that they grow up too fast and become responsible too fast, which basically means that they end up never wanting to take responsibility. And they end up being in their feminine boy state for a long period of time and blaming everyone else around them for all the horrible things that are going on in their lives. When it's actually their own responsibility up here to use their mind to change their focus from the bad events that are happening to them to making those events into life-changing events that puts them on a newer path that will lead them to where they want to go. Does that make sense? You have to get to the point where you use self-discipline to control your own emotions. If it doesn't happen between the age of 12 to 18, like the maturity stage, when you're a teenager, like it's kind of hard during that time as well because of puberty, you're ending up having even more emotions, right? When you were 0 to 8, you had pain and you had, people shouting at you and whatever. But once you get into puberty, in addition to all those other stuff as well, man, you're mixing a lot of emotion in there. It becomes very tricky unless you're being taught about this from an early age. Self-discipline will assist you to become masculine. Masculinity means that you can control your emotions. If you cannot control your emotions, you will never, ever become a man. You will remain in your boy state, being a feminine little girl, right? And you're not going to be able to take the next step to a life of responsibility where you are 100% in control of what happens to you because you choose the events. I'm not saying that you're choosing everything that's happening to you. I'm choosing the way you look at it. You're choosing your attitude towards the events that happen. And very often you can also, as you increase your leadership skills and the way you work with people, you can eventually choose a lot of the events that are happening in your life simply by you taking responsibility. Once you're into manhood, adulthood, where you've learned to control your emotions, you've covered now step 2, where you have used self-discipline to control your emotions. A great way, by the way, as a side note, to self-discipline yourself is to make the decision once that you will not watch porn, you will not masturbate. It requires a lot of self-discipline to manage to avoid these two, right? And also avoid alcohol, cigarettes, and any form of drugs. You don't need these things. And you will be a leader if you manage to avoid all of these simply by choice. Not because religion tells you to not do it, but because you choose to not do it because you want to be different. Being different, being unique is a fantastic thing in today's world. You do not want to be mainstream. Step 3. Once you are a man, you've learned how to control your emotions, you've come to the next level. And that next level is being able to channel your emotions. You're not suppressing them. You might have done that as a period of time until you learned which emotions were good for you and which were not. Once you're in adult stage, you've had lots of self-discipline experience. You can channel your emotions for your benefit. What does that mean? It means that high-level investors or high-level CEOs and executives in massive companies, very often they speak about making decisions with their gut. Now, if that's not emotion, I don't know what is. But what they do is they don't just focus on their emotions. What they've done is that they've taken all of the logical facts, all of the reasoning, they've taken input from every single person that knows more than they do about certain aspects and that have gone deeper into subjects than they have. Take all of that information and then they use emotion that they choose to confirm with their gut that which you're choosing to do is the right thing to do at this time. And very often, because of that creativity, the intuition, because of the channeled emotion, they end up 99% of the time making the right decision. That's why people, the great leaders of the world, focus or speak so much about using their gut feeling and sleeping on it, allowing the mind and the emotion to work together because you've channeled them. This is not possible if you haven't gone through the period of time with self-discipline. You'll never come to the point where you can actually channel your emotion for your benefit. This is why you have to start early. You have to start now to control your emotion and to suppress them. And rather, instead of allowing them to build up like a, like a rice cooker or whatever, you vent out these emotions through healthy and worthwhile activities like exercise and sports, or simply talking to someone that you trust about your emotions. Just getting it out. And if you're speaking to a guy, not a girl, if you're speaking to another guy who is able to be indifferent to your issues, he can listen to you and you can vent it out. Now, if that guy that you're talking to is an emotional guy, he's going to have issues with some of the things that you come out with. So you shouldn't use it like in an argument or anything. I'm talking about talking to maybe an elder, maybe someone who's older than you and more wise than you, and just tell them, hey, I just need to talk to you about something. I just want to get it out. Because once I've gotten it out, I can move to the next level and it can make sense in my own mind. And then you move on. So, very simply put, this is the end of the video. Just want to say, step 1, we're all in it together. We start out as feminine boys being massively emotional. And the next level is being able to control those emotions and subdue them according to our will and our mind's will. And then the third step is being able to bring those emotions back and channel them through logic and reasoning, and channel those emotions for our benefit. And there's way more to learn about that. When it comes to women, however, we want women to stay in their emotions. If we can have women be unburdened completely, not necessarily have a job, be in a community of women, 3 is a great number, and allow them to do whatever they want whenever they want to. If they're unburdened, they will seek to do good. If they're massively burdened, you can trust that they will not seek to do good. They will seek to fulfill their lack of emotions. But if their emotions are fulfilled and they're happy and excited, they'll choose to do good. Now the trick is to taking us boys, become men, and then allowing women to remain emotional. What's happening in today's world is that we're allowing women, or we're telling women to be responsible, and we're taking them out of their emotions and into their heads. And the only way to get emotion out of them, and you can talk about some positive emotions like sexual emotions, the only way to get it truly out of them, where they return back to their feminine selves, is to get them drunk. That's not a good place to be for society. We want to get the alcohol out of the women's systems. We want to unburden them. We want to undrug them. And we want to help them to get to the next level for them, where they do not control their emotions, but they allow emotion to take over them. But in positive ways, positive manners. It's only possible if men take responsibility and do the things that I've explained in this video. This is the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. I'll see you again tomorrow.